Hey everyone, this is Kerwin. I bring you another standard match. Today we have yet another glitter showdown. So we have Ava on the left, of course, and on the right we do have Tamayura. Now Tamayura is a deck we actually haven't really seen very often or very much at all. But do you remember it does have its ride skipper just like all the other glitter decks? And if you did watch my tier list, I did mention that Tamayura kind of is just like a big rush deck, like swing as early as possible, and then numbers get kind of scary at turn 4. But honestly, most of Tamayura's, I think, problems are kind of that it's trying to balance between being a defensive deck and being an offensive deck, where it's a very Dragon Empire deck where it's very resource hungry, and just it doesn't really have enough to like supplement its attack every single turn. But at the same time, you have things like the Fox Arts that are blitz orders that are defensive and actually not half bad blitz orders, but then that taps into your soul and you're really hungry for soul, and so many things need soul. But yeah, so let's go ahead and see how Tamayura actually does against, you know, one of the what I would say is probably one of the better decks of the format. I don't know if it's the best deck in the format. Like, definitely going first, they can do a lot of nasty things, but you know, it's not always enough to like contend with some of the best of the meta right now, like Shiranui and some of like the Faded One decks. Anyways, speaking of Tamayura, which we definitely were like a while ago, we do see the Rimi and the Rarami. Of course, the I don't know which one is which, and unless you play Tamayura, neither do you. We are going to be calling down the grade 1 so that we can use the grade 2 skill, which is when it's placed. If you have the other one on board, you can Soul Blast to draw a card. Looks like that's also going to allow us to go ahead and use the promo, which basically just EV3 check top 7, call a one of your glitters. So that's actually pretty insane. Well, it's not super insane, but it is just like a really solid card. It's a shame, you know, it's kind of in a mediocre-ish deck here. Of course, it's going to be doing classic Tamayura rushing, but like I said, these numbers aren't really hitting that big. We've got 8, we've got 18 from the Vanguard, and then another 18 here from the other rearguard's side. Now, we did have to commit quite a bit of cards. Like, I pretty much all these cards were called from hand except for the grade 1 in the back row there, which was called off the effect. You did get a little bit of advantage, so you didn't minus so much from calling the grade 1. But we do see the grade 1 putting them both in the soul. Unfortunately, we don't actually have anything to countercharge quite yet, so that skill is going to go completely unused. Anyways, Ava riding up, we did see them play the monster order during the last turn. Of course, going to be just playing another one. I think we got like a wavy loss off the last one, so playing this next one, we're going to have to see what we get off. Like, Ava does now have to play a decent amount of monsters that they want to, you know, actually hit, because it is a pretty decent package. I mean, you're giving a tiny bit of consistency because you do like play maybe like one extra monster, but looks like we're going to be whiffing off that top 5 there. Normally you just do want to be getting a PG or like the wavy loss, which, you know, the deck is already playing wavy loss, and it's not a huge change to switch over to the starter deck PGs. It doesn't make that much of a difference, so you're not really giving a whole up lot other than like the retire protection, which a lot of times isn't really going to matter this meta. We don't have things like Gandiva running around. There's not much that actually retires. Even this deck, Tamayura, which does have removal, has it in the form of actually putting cards into soul. So we do also see another new card here from the Festival Booster, that Dual Nation, the Keter Bront, which is just like very solid, especially for Broncate decks, just giving them an ability to you know, check top 5, call 1, and put a body on board. So it looks like we're going to be calling that grade 1 from set 5, I want to say. That card is from set 5, but I could be wrong about that. It's just a 13k attacker if you have 2 or more set orders, and I think it is during both players' turns. Anyways, speaking of 13k attackers, we do have the wavy loss coming on down. Just be Soul Blasting into drawing the card, swinging the wavy, the grade 1 there. Going to be a pretty easy 5k block, but looks like we're just going to be taking that. Kind of makes sense. You do have a pretty easy line here guarding the Vanguard with a 15k, but we did see a frontier come down, so that's going to make it that much more difficult to actually guard. This attack is 28. That'll have to commit a 20k shield, and your fronts are not active right now, so like kind of awkward. So we're going to be taking it. Definitely not a problem for Tamayura, realistically. Like, the deck does need a fair amount of CB, which I think you probably want. You definitely need at least 2, because the grade 1s desperately need CB, and unfortunately you do counterblast 2 every single turn to call them out from being soul blasted. but you only get countercharge 1, so at some point you will be running out of counterblast. But the one thing that is very nice about Tamayura now with the new Tamayura is that it no longer requires CB. Kind of the same thing for Ava, which is kind of funny that they're actually very similar. They're both on ride, search and order, and then on swing call your glitter partner. The difference obviously that Ava just calls the Obfuscate from anywhere, and then of course the Tamayura is just going to be calling the 2 from Soul, I believe. I guess we'll see when it pops up here. Anyways, going to be calling, or not calling, we're going to be playing the Fox order that we searched. So that's a Soul Blast 2, and then call Ririmi and Rarami from the drop zone. So just going to be calling the one we're missing there. And I guess we're probably just going to finish the pair. So you need to have the Ririmi boosting the Rarami, and then the Rarami boosting the Ririmi, which is what's going on here. Unfortunately, it doesn't really look like the deck has very many like good boosters for the Vanguard, which is why we're just going to be calling a promo. Not going to be using its skill, because obviously we do have a full board here. I mean, I guess you could have tried using it to, deck thin a little bit. But as we're seeing, we have some pretty pokey numbers here. Like, these numbers aren't the greatest. They're 18-18. So, they're sizable. That's still a 10k guard. But realistically, they're not really getting that far. But anyways, we see the Tamayura swinging here. We did get an extra 5k from the skill of the Rarami. And then she is going to be calling both the Ririmi and Rarami from the Soul, giving them 5k, kind of just exactly like Ava does. And then we're going to be using the skill of whichever the one is that draws a card to Soul Blast. And then, of course, the grade 1s, when they're Soul Blasted, you can counterblast 1 for each of them and draw a card. So it looks like we're going to be taking the Vanguard swing. Not checking any triggers there, but we do hit into a defensive there. Thankfully, we did get the extra 5k, so that both these numbers are hitting for 23, so they will be able to hit over the defensive. And with this other skill, adding another 5k, making that a much more threatening 28, calling for at least a 10k, but it looks like it is going to be getting a front trigger out of Ava. So, rewriting back into the original base Tamayura. Of course, Ava doing, Ava things, almost forgetting to do correct sequence of order sequence correctly there, trying to play a grade 3 order before we even ride up. But of course, discarding, riding, doing correctly this turn, doing the blue research lab to check those top 5. Obviously, you're kind of looking for an Obfuscate here, just because it's a lot of extra pressure. But if you can't get that, there's plenty of other things in the deck that are perfectly fine to just call out here. Like, you do kind of are missing a little bit of a board here. So you do want to, bolster it out a little bit. So it looks like we are going to be getting an Imgar off the top there, which, you kind of do need. I think we might have discarded one earlier for ride deck. So it definitely wasn't something desperate that we really needed. Yeah, we're going to be calling one back off, playing the blue research lab, calling it behind the Vanguard. And then looks like we're going to be using the skill of the Ava. Another thing I forgot is that the Imgar itself is also another target off of the Monster Research Lab. So definitely another reason to be playing it, because Imgar is just such a vital piece to the deck now. Checking top 3, just going to be adding one to our hand. Putting the Imgar that was called off the Blue Research Lab, which is definitely correct, because you do want to have that 10k booster there rather than the 8k. Running into the Pip Ava, going to be adding the, I think it's like the 3rd copy of the Blue Research Lab. And then, of course, kind of just doing exactly what Tamayura did, but, maybe a little bit better. So we got a decently sized attacks here. We got 23k column there. If we call like any 10k in front of that grade 1, we do get like a 23k column. I'm going to be tapping the Blue Research Lab, getting the 5k to the Vanguard. So that's going to be swinging for about 33 here. Pushing the what's that called? The grade 1 back. Looks like we were just going to be swinging without calling anything in front of the grade 1. Just going to be swinging for that 33, calling out the Obfuscate, and then, just swinging at the Vanguard. Honestly, this is a little bit scary, because, like, usually you're fine taking the Ava swing, because usually it's, like, the least threatening, because you've got, like, crits when the Obfuscates on both columns, and then they do kind of have to rely on checking and crit in order to actually deal you 2 damage. But it looks like we're actually be hitting a heal trigger here, and be healing down to 2, and then of course pushing Tamayura to 4. We did get a defensive there, so that's gonna make a lot of these attacks that are incoming a lot easier to guard, like this what's it called? I don't even remember the Bront gate one. That's gonna be actually met with the Blitz order, so that's going to be negging 10 to the entire front row. So that's going to make all these attacks that much easier to guard. But it looks like it's not really going to matter because we're just going to go ahead and commit the PG to block that obfuscate because it is still pretty big. I believe at 41 or so. But anyways, the nice thing about Tamayura, it does have that extra skill where it does give you another 5k to your Persona Ride, essentially, which is something that it actually has in common with Thagria, where it actually gives you the skill, so it doesn't matter if you re-ride into something afterwards, but basically you have the skill where all your front row units are going to be getting 5k during this turn. And then, of course, since we did not ride this turn, and we're actually going to hard ride the second Tamayura and then activate the Persona Ride, adding back the Fox order, and then, of course, playing once again, Soul Blasting out 2, doing basically the same motions that we did last time, Counter Blasting 2, calling the grade 1s off of the draw card there. I think, honestly, we probably could have used our removal tool, get rid of the 10k intercept, the Obfuscate. Theoretically, that makes it a little bit harder for Ava to get it because it only calls from hand, deck, or drop. So, you know, putting it in a place that it is not ideal might have been an okay play, but at the same time, like, Ava's not really going to have an issue Soul Blasting now, and you're kind of just giving them more resources. So it does make sense to just, you know, bolster your own strategy rather than, you know, getting rid of your opponents at the cost of giving them, like, more resources. Swinging this other one for, I think that was 38, yeah, because under Persona Ride, everything is getting that extra 15k, so these usually 18k base columns are now hitting for actually decent numbers, and with the extra 5k from the one of the grade 1s, that makes it the really cringe number of 38. So of course we do actually have what's it called, of course, using the skill calling out both the Ririmi and the Ranami, and we Soul Blasting the 2. Unfortunately, it looks like we only have one Counter Blast left, because we didn't, I think we might have not had enough soul in order to, you know, actually use the counter charge ability. So only me calling out one of the grade 1s. So these columns are, what are they? Let's see, that's plus 20, so they're 30 and 38. So still pretty decent numbers. So we do see Over Trigger being used to guard here, Drive Trigger and a PG into a Heal Trigger, which of course is going to be going off, and allow us to heal, which for this deck is kind of a pseudo counter charge. You desperately do need to find a counter charge in this deck, because like you've been seeing, you're basically CVing 2 every single turn, which makes it very hard to, like, you know, keep yourself at low damage early, because you desperately do need that damage. So let's swing this first column for 38, probably because we do want to you know, give the extra 5k to the other column, and be using the Blitz order here to block it for 43, swinging the other column in. It did get the heal trigger power, so my mistake, it is actually at 45, which is, you know, just gonna be blocked with no, we're not even gonna block, we're gonna take it. So Ava's gonna be at 4. A little bit scary, I suppose, but I think Ava's hand is running a little bit low at this point, so they're going to need to bulk up. We do see the Believe Research Lab being played here, and getting the grade 2 Obfuscate, which is, you know, not the greatest, you know, cards to get out there. You definitely would want the more pressure, especially since you are kind of losing in the damage race now. So you do need to catch up, which honestly shouldn't be that difficult. Only 3 cards in hand for Ava, so like I said, things are a little bit scary. I mean, you still have definitely a lot of pressure. I think maybe we even just use Ava's skill here just to, like, get some more cards. That can push us up to ending our turn with 6 cards in hand, which might be enough, but who knows. Chain top 4, going to be adding one of them, putting the rest to the bottom of the deck. Like I said, I think, like, just the massive multi-attack that's been coming out of Tamayura is one of the main reasons why Ava is struggling just a little bit. Like, I don't think Ava is, like, out of this game in any sense of the word, as we do see the ride-up into the Pip Ava there. We did actually leave one rear guard there, so the grade 2 Obfuscate can't just swing in at the front row, which is a little bit annoying. Like, one of the, if you ever really wanted to know how to beat Tamayura, part of it is swinging into the grade 2 rears that they leave on board. The problem is it's sometimes hard to do that because most of the time they're not going to be leaving them on board. They're just going to get stuck into the soul with the grade 1. So it looks like we're getting rid of the Ketterbront Dual Nation for the Combine Rusher here. It's just coming another card from hand. Not a bad option because Combine Rusher is definitely a lot more bulky, or bulky, no, that's not right. A lot more powerful than, you know, the Keter card. This is 20k attacker, whereas this card is hitting for 30. So I'm going to be swinging at the entire front row. I'm going to be guarding with one of the Direful Dolls, which is going to be putting it into the Soul. The Obfuscate not being boosted here, which I think honestly you probably should have boosted, because you would have gone to 38. That would have been a much nicer magic number. And I mean, the Obfuscate you're calling off here is going to be at 38 anyway, so I don't think the extra 13k really mattered. And I think it would have been better to just like give that booster to the grade 2 Obfuscate and just like let him hit for big cringe numbers. But of course we're not going to be doing that. Instead, I guess we're going to just be fishing for PG bait here. Honestly, this Tamayura isn't that, or this Ava is not really that big, so we're only at 3. I think I just said that, like, it's a little bit scary the last time this happened, but, you know, it's not that big of a deal. They would need to hit double crit, and it looks like we're going to get 0 crits there, and we're actually heading to a defensive front, which is going to be making this turn that much easier to guard. So we got Combine Rusher swinging in for a pretty big 43 here. Thanks to the defensive, it is just a 25k guard. Although realistically, you can just take this attack, because you obviously can't take the Obfuscate. So maybe just take we just take this one. Now you have 2 CB, you could do your entire combo play. And it looks like we're going to be guarding for 30k guard there. Was that 30k? I think I might have missed some other cards. But just guarding the Obfuscate. Gonna be using, of course, our Ride Fixer, which is kind of funny because that was on board last turn, and we just didn't use it. So that's gonna allow us to ride into our 3rd copy of the Tamayura there, which, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, riding into the Tamayura does also give you another soul, which, like I said, this deck is kind of desperate for a lot of resources. Gonna be adding back once again that Fox Blitz order, the normal order. So we can totally just build a board off of this. I'm not sure exactly what we have in the Soul. I think we're missing one of the grade 1s in Soul, so it might be a little bit difficult to get, you know, our full board, our ideal board here. Looks like we did EV7 in order to draw a card. Definitely a lot of cards still in hand, so it's totally feasible that, you know, you just have full combo. It looks like instead of going for full combo, we're just be calling the Ford here and using its skill, which is definitely interesting. Like, I feel Ford is actually pretty good in this deck for a multitude of reasons. Like, it gives you more board control here. Like, you could have easily used the Ford to like retire the Obfuscate there, but at the same time, like, this deck really needs a lot of CB. So it might not be the greatest choice, but, you know, I'll leave that up to the Tamayura players, all 5 of you out there. But, you know, Ford seems alright. Also, it's another Dragon Empire Dark Six card, just like the Direful Dolls. Anyways, using the order, I guess we do kind of have to decide what we want to be Soul Blasting here. Looks like we're going to be Soul Blasting out the previous Tamayura that we rode into, and then, of course, one of the dolls. But, of course, we can still just call 2 dolls anyway, calling grade 1 to be a booster for Ford, which isn't really going to be doing much because you do actually need to boost the correct one in order for that card to get any of its skills. And obviously Ford is neither a Rimi nor a Rarami. But looks like we are actually going to be using the removal skill here, putting the Obfuscate into the Soul there. So we are kind of just pushing for game here. You've got your 5 attacks set up. 5 attacks, because you can just overcall the Ford, assuming you do have the correct things in Soul. So swinging this first attack for that 33, you're gonna be very hard pressed to find a way to guard this that is not like 2 cards. And looks like Ava's hand is kind of cluttered up with a couple orders there. I think I see a Blue Research Lab and the grade 1 order, and we only have like a PG, a 5k shield, and I think I see like 1 or 2 triggers. So things definitely not really looking great for Tamayura here. I think your best bet is to kind of hope for a defensive here, but looks like we're not going to be getting that. If we had managed to hit that defensive, things definitely would have been in a much better situation as we swing the Ford for a massive 38. Yet another cringe number. That's going to be calling for, is that 20, 40, 30k shield, which, you know, be 2 triggers. I think, honestly, you kind of do have to hope for a little bit of a heal here, because just looking at the current hand, yeah, you do have the PG, but it's realistically not going to be enough unless you have like 2 or 3 PGs here, because you have to block all these attacks. You're at 5, and you've got still 3 more after this attack. So even if you manage to block this one, which I don't even know if we can, honestly. Like, I see the 15k shield, I see the 5k shield, the intercept, that's 5k short to block it. normally. And we do definitely need to keep the PG for like something else. So actually getting rid of the Obfuscate was super big here. So looks like we're opting to just take the last damage, and it's not going to be healed. So that's going to be the end of the game. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to do all those YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.